The Money Machine. How a secret meeting doomed financial freedom. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. In the hushed stillness of a cold November night in 1910, a clandestine meeting took place on a remote island off the coast of Georgia. Jekyll Island was no ordinary retreat, it was the exclusive playground of America's wealthiest and most powerful families. But this gathering wasn't for leisure. Under the cover of darkness, 7 men slipped onto the island, carrying with them a secret that would alter the course of history. Disguised as duck hunters to avoid detection, these men bore no firearms. Instead, they carried documents, drafts, and the blueprint for what would become the most enigmatic institution in the world, the Federal Reserve. What began that night has shaped the destiny of nations, yet most Americans remain oblivious to the true nature of this powerful entity. This is the story of how the Federal Reserve came to be and why its origins remain shrouded in secrecy. The architects of control. The men who gathered on Jekyll Island represented the titans of industry and finance. Their identities remained hidden for decades. But investigative efforts eventually revealed their names. Senator Nelson Aldrich, a financial advisor to the Rockefeller family, Paul Warburg, a banker whose family ties extended to Europe's financial elite, and other representatives of the Morgan, Rothschild, and Kuhn-Loeb dynasties. Officially, they met to discuss banking reform, a necessary step after the financial panics of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Unofficially, their mission was far more ambitious, to consolidate control over the nation's money supply. By creating a central bank, they could centralize power and establish a system that ensured their interests would prevail no matter the cost to the public. A system born in secrecy. When the Federal Reserve Act was passed in 1913, it was celebrated as a triumph of modern economics. Sold to the public as a safeguard against economic instability, the Federal Reserve was touted as a protector of the common good. Few questioned its design or its motives. But a closer look at its structure reveals an unsettling truth. Despite its name, the Federal Reserve is not a government agency. It is a privately controlled entity with a veneer of public oversight. Its decisions are made behind closed doors, shielded from scrutiny, and its mandate often aligns more with the interests of global financial elites than with those of the average citizen. The debt machine. For over a century, the Federal Reserve has operated as the ultimate engine of debt. When it creates money, it does so not by printing currency but by electronically adding to the reserves of commercial banks. This newly created money is loaned out at interest, ensuring that every dollar in circulation is tied to debt. The implications are staggering. The national debt, now in the trillions, is not an accidental byproduct of poor fiscal policy, it is the intended consequence of a system that thrives on perpetual borrowing. Every year, interest payments siphon billions of taxpayer dollars into the coffers of those who control the system, leaving less for infrastructure, education, or healthcare. Inflation. The hidden tax. Most Americans are unaware that inflation, often dismissed as an unavoidable economic phenomenon, is a deliberate tool wielded by the Federal Reserve. By increasing the money supply, the Federal Reserve devalues the dollar, eroding the purchasing power of ordinary citizens. For those who control asset stocks, real estate, and commodities, this devaluation often translates into increased wealth. But for workers, savers, and retirees, it means rising costs, stagnant wages, and diminished savings. The result? A widening chasm between the elite and the everyday citizen. The global web. The influence of the Federal Reserve doesn't end at America's borders. Its policies ripple through the global economy, affecting currencies, markets, and governments worldwide. Institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, often viewed as benevolent forces, play their part in this global financial system. By offering loans to struggling nations, they impose crippling austerity measures, ensuring these countries remain dependent and indebted. This is not a coincidence. It is a carefully orchestrated system designed to concentrate power and wealth in the hands of a few, while the rest of the world grapples with economic uncertainty. The illusion of democracy. Every election cycle, Americans are bombarded with promises of economic reform, tax cuts, or spending increases. Yet no matter who sits in the Oval Office or controls Congress, the Federal Reserve operates with impunity. Its policies, quantitative easing, interest rate manipulation, and money creation proceed without public consent or accountability. During the 2008 financial crisis, the Federal Reserve bailed out major banks with trillions of dollars, drawn not from its own reserves but from the American taxpayer. Meanwhile, millions lost their homes, jobs, and savings. The system had spoken. The needs of the elite outweighed those of the public. The unmasking. For decades, these truths were buried beneath layers of academic jargon, political rhetoric, and public complacency. But in the 1990s, a researcher and writer set out to uncover the Federal Reserve's dark origins and lay bare its true purpose. He traced the threads of this mystery back to that fateful meeting on Jekyll Island, piecing together the story of how the world's most powerful financial institution was born in secrecy and deception. This writer was G. Edward Griffin, and his book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, a second look at the Federal Reserve, has become a cornerstone for those seeking to understand the hidden forces shaping our world. Griffin's work is not just an exposé but a call to action, urging readers to question the systems that govern their lives and demand accountability from those in power. The Creature from Jekyll Island is no myth, it is a reality that continues to shape the economic destiny of billions. And until its secrets are fully exposed, it will remain the greatest mystery of modern finance. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Source: Dinar Recaps.